Okay, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're embarking on a literal, highly structured, and honestly, a fascinating biological journey straight through the human body. We are breaking down the complex mechanics of the human digestive system. By the end of this, you're going to have a crystal clear understanding of the anatomical route your food takes and the chemical powerhouses that make human energy possible. But before we take that first step, we really need to set the stakes. What exactly is digestion? Well, it's a biochemical process, and its entire purpose is to take complex food substances, just picture a giant tangled knot of nutrients, and break them down into simpler, absorbable forms. It is literally the ultimate biological dismantling process. Without breaking the complex into the simple, our bodies just couldn't absorb a single thing we eat.
To get there, here's our roadmap. We'll start by decoding digestion, then we'll step inside the buccal cavity, travel down the alimentary canal, explore the crucial digestive glands, and finally, finish up inside the intestines.
So let's start with part 1, decoding digestion and mapping the route. Our entire playing field is essentially a full-body map of the digestive system, and it's broadly divided into two main categories. You've got the alimentary canal and the digestive glands. Now, the alimentary canal is basically one continuous, highly specialized tube. It starts way up at the mouth or oral cavity, travels all the way down the esophagus to the stomach, winds its way through the small and large intestines, and finally ends at the anus. And along the way, we have these specialized glands, like the liver and pancreas, acting as chemical factories. Keep this mental map in your head because we're about to travel down this exact path. Moving on to part 2, inside the buccal cavity, where it all begins. Now, the buccal cavity is really just a fancy biological term for your mouth, primarily containing your teeth and tongue. What's actually super interesting here is this strict mathematical formula behind human teeth. We have this distinct dental formula that literally changes as we grow up. So for a human adult, the formula calculates out to exactly 32 permanent teeth. But for a human child, the formula is completely different. They lack certain tooth types, which leaves them with exactly 20 milk teeth. And human teeth are highly specialized. There are 3 distinct characteristics you absolutely need to know. First, they're called thecodont. This just means each tooth is firmly embedded in a little socket within the jawbone. Second, they're diphyodont, which is a complex way of saying our teeth appear twice during a lifetime. First as those 20 milk teeth and later as the 32 permanent teeth. And third, they are heterodont. We don't just have one single shape of tooth in there. We have different types equipped for different jobs, like biting, tearing, and grinding up our incredibly varied human diet. I'm talking incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. Zooming in even closer on the anatomy of those teeth, we see they're covered in enamel. Now, made of calcium phosphate, this white, hard covering is actually the hardest substance in the entire human body. Pretty crazy, right? But mechanical breakdown from our teeth just isn't enough. We also have 3 pairs of salivary glands. There's the parotid in the cheek, the submaxillary in the lower jaw, and the sublingual right below the tongue. Working together, their ducts secrete salivary juice directly into the mouth, which officially kicks off the chemical side of our biochemical breakdown. Once everything is chewed and mixed with saliva, we're ready for part 3. Down the alimentary canal, the transit system. So the really crucial point here is getting that food safely down to the stomach without it accidentally going into our lungs. At the pharynx, which is a common chamber for both food and air, how does the body sort them out? Well, it uses this brilliant little mechanism called the epiglottis. This tiny flap physically covers the glottis, which is the opening of your windpipe, or trachea, right when you're swallowing food and water. This ensures your meal travels safely down the food pipe, completely preventing that awful feeling of food going down the wrong pipe. And sitting at the very end of that pipe is the stomach. It's this J-shaped organ acting like a biological holding tank. It gets emptied out roughly every 4 hours, which, by the way, is exactly why you start feeling hungry again right before your next meal. Anatomically speaking, it's divided into 4 very specific regions. You have the cardiac portion, where the esophagus centers, the upper fundus, the main central body, and finally the pyloric region, which acts as a sort of exit valve, leading straight into the small intestine. Now, if we were to take a microscopic slice right through the wall of that alimentary canal, we'd see it's definitely not just a simple rubber tube. It's an incredibly complex structure made of distinct layers. Moving from the outside inward, we have the serosa, then the muscularis layer, which handles all the movement. Next is the submucosa, and finally the inner mucosa, which lines the empty space inside, known as the lumen. What's truly incredible is that in places like the stomach and intestines, this inner lining has deep foldings. They're called rugae in the stomach and villi in the intestines, and they are specifically designed to drastically increase the surface area for digestion and absorption.
Which brings us to part 4, the crucial digestive glands, the chemical powerhouses making absorption possible. First up is the liver, located right there in the abdominal cavity. This thing is an absolute powerhouse. It is officially the largest gland in the human body, weighing in at an impressive 1.2 to 1.5 kilograms. That's roughly the weight of a standard bag of flour. Structurally, it consists of 2 lobes, with the right lobe being the bigger of the two. And its primary job in all of this? The liver is a literal factory that secretes bile. Then we have the pancreas. This organ is fascinating because it's what we call a compound gland. It basically pulls double duty with 2 highly specialized functions. Its exocrine part contains ducts and secretes powerful pancreatic enzymes specifically for digestion. But it also has a ductless endocrine part. This side of the pancreas secretes vital hormones, specifically insulin and glucagon, straight into the bloodstream to constantly regulate our blood sugar.
Now, you might be wondering, how do these chemical powerhouses actually deliver their payloads into our transit system? They do it through a biological plumbing network called the hepatopancreatic duct system. It works like this. The liver releases bile into the hepatic duct. Meanwhile, the gallbladder, which concentrates that bile, sends it down the cystic duct. These two merge into a common hepatic duct, which then joins up with the pancreatic duct. Finally, this combined superhighway, the common hepatopancreatic duct, empties all those crucial fluids directly into the duodenum. And that perfectly sets up part 5, inside the intestines, the climax of digestion. So, we know the food has been mechanically mashed, mixed with acid in the stomach, and bombarded with enzymes and bile. I want you to really think about this for a second. Inside the long, winding road of the intestines, where does most of the actual digestive activity finally come to an end? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. It finishes almost immediately as it enters the intestines, specifically in the duodenum. The duodenum is just the very first part of the small intestine, but it is exactly where mainly all the digestive activities occur and get completely finished. The rest of the highly coiled small intestine, the jejunum and the ileum, mostly just carry the remaining undigested substances onward. So the breakdown part is essentially done right at the starting line of the intestines. Those undigested substances eventually pass into the large intestine, making their final stops. The large intestine consists of the cecum, the colon, which travels up, across, and down as the ascending, transverse, and descending colon, and finally the rectum. What's truly remarkable here is the cecum. It hosts symbiotic microorganisms. This amazing alliance with microbes, what we often refer to today as our gut microbiome, helps digest complex plant fibers that our own bodies simply can't handle on their own. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought. We've just mapped out this continuous, highly sensitive biological pipeline, from the 32 teeth in the buccal cavity, past the epiglottis flap, through the 4-hour hold of the stomach, bombarded by the massive 1.5 kilo liver, and finally aided by microscopic symbiotic bacteria. It's an absolutely perfect sequence. But it really makes you wonder, right? How might just one single missing enzyme, or even a slight imbalance in those symbiotic microbes, completely disrupt this incredible biochemical symphony? It's a delicate balance that literally defines our daily health. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how your world and your body works.